All right, guys. Today we're reviewing the business model Canvas, which we looked at last week. You introduced yourself to the subject. Now we're going to kind of talk about it more. So, one of the things that I want you guys to notice is that there are uh, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine different parts to the canvas. And guys, when we come over here, this is the first part that we're always going to look at is who is our customer segment? Who are we trying to give this value to? And you have to be careful of generalizations. It needs to be specific and it needs to be data driven. Often this will include demographics such as age, race, sex. A segment means a group of like people. And in this situation, it's critical. That's going to be related to the value proposition. And the value proposition is what do we bring to that customer to attract them to our product? And depending on the company, that's going to change. But that segment and that value proposition have to be aligned. Now, also, it's very important to understand channels or how our product arrives or how our customer arrives to our product, our customer relationships, or how do we keep, how do we acquire, how do we grow customers over the lifetime of our business. And then the revenue streams deal with how do we bring money into the business. This right side of the canvas right here is basically the revenue or customer focused side. Whereas as we move to the left, we're going to look at our key partners. Where can we outsource things? Who can we partner up with strategically that's going to advance our value propositions? Our key activities are what do we have to do to deliver this product? And that involves many things. And our key resources are going to deal with what do we have in place that allows us to do that already. Cost structure is going to deal with the cost of running the business. That can be from the cost of production, facility, and infrastructure, all the way to dealing with overhead, which is the lights, the rent, business loans, those kind of things. So all of those things, guys, are really, really critical. Now, when we move along here, there is an order of operations, so to speak. So we want to be thinking about number one, our customer segments, and then we're going to go to number two into our value propositions. We're going to move over to our channels for number three. Customer relationships are four, and revenue streams are five, and they are interrelated. If this changes, this changes. And then, of course, these might change, and then this changes. So it is a web of connections on one page, and that's what makes it so powerful. Very rarely is the first version, in fact, never is the first version generally going to be the correct version, especially for a startup or new business. On this left side, then we're going to move to key activities, key resources, key partners, and then cost structure. So all of these things are interrelated. Don't forget, right side is, it's the revenue based, the customer driven side. Left side is more of the cost structure and the things that we have to have in place in order to deliver the value that we want to deliver. Now, if you look through here, guys, I've kind of broken down each side and what they deal with. So like I said, the left side is delivery focused, internal and cost side, whereas the customer focused, external and revenue side is on the right. And that gives you that picture of both of those sides. And yes, they're intertwined, but yes, they do have different goals when we're completing them. This is Alex Osterwalder. He is the inventor. This video is pretty long, but it gives a really good explanation. So if you want to watch through this, if you need more scaffolding, if you're not understanding something, go through this video and take the opportunity. He does an amazing job of explaining the purpose of the canvas. Now, when we get into our business canvas, guys, we're thinking about things that are relatable. So that's why you see segment one, segment two, so on and so forth, because we're going to start here, then we're going to go from here, then to the value proposition, then into our channels, into our customer relationships. These really at the top, though, really do connect one-to-one. And then when you think about it, this value proposition is going to bring this stream of revenue. from this customer segment. So it's interrelated, and that's what I want you to see. These things are connected, and that connection allows us to truly understand the consequences, the ramifications. It's dropping that stone into a pond that's a ripple effect throughout the entire business canvas model. Now, when we look here, guys, we're looking at what we're offering. We're looking at our customer segments. And then over here, we're looking at our infrastructure. Guys, infrastructure can be physical, like a plant or a manufacturing facility. It can be intellectual, like copyrights and patents. It can be strategic in the sense that we have a strong ability to create partnerships, and we have the leadership that's necessary to lead us through. So there are more parts to each of these, but I want you to see here, this kind of speaks to what we talked about first, that right side, that left side, and then how it's all intertwined in the middle. So starting off, customer segments, guys. Our customer segments are who we're trying to create value for. Who are we targeting this product to? And once we identify this segment, we need to know what value we're going to bring to them in order to attract them. Each customer segment, has a connected value proposition, which we just looked at in the prior slide. So very critical. If we don't do a good job on this side, we don't identify who our customers are, there's no way we're going to know how to satisfy their needs. Now, value propositions, guys, is what do we deliver? What is it that we bring that's unique about our product? And if you look down here, there are some characteristics that can deal with that. So you might have newness. It's never been done before. So it has that attraction. Performance, it ups your ability to perform a task. Customization, it allows you to personalize something. It helps you get the job done. The design is interesting and unique. The brand and the status that it brings. So it could even be like, for instance, like a Tesla that's bringing that. It reduces your cost or reduces your risk. It's easily accessible. It's convenient. So all of those can be parts of the value proposition. Now, when we look at our customer segments, we're going to connect those to our value propositions. It's very critical that each segment is connected, that we see that connection throughout so we understand the relationship between our customer segment and our value proposition. Channels, guys, this is how do we reach our customer segments? How are we reaching them now? How do we want to reach them most effectively? What's the most cost efficient? Cost efficient, I mean, we're cutting away those unneeded expenses that drag down our profitability. And how do we integrate this with customer regimes? And if you see this, if you see this, guys, it talks about awareness, evaluation, purchase, delivery, and after sales. So it deals with all of those facets. Awareness is how do we let people know sometimes about our product, which also kind of deals with customer relationships. When we talk about that here in a second, how do we acquire? How do we keep? How do we grow? How do we build these relationships? Evaluation, how do we help our customers evaluate our organization's value proposition? Purchase, how do they get to our product? How are we allowing them to buy this value? Delivery is how do we deliver this value proposition to customers? And after sales is how do we provide support? If you notice, guys, on each one of these slides actually as well, there is a video follow-up or an article in this case that you can discover and that will help you in case you have any more questions or doubts. So I'm going to go next to customer relationships. This is my favorite way of placing and putting this, is how do we acquire, keep, and grow our customer base? How do we interact with our customer throughout their journey with our product? So mapping that out, understanding all of the interactions that your customer will have with you and how to best deliver the best interaction is clearly very, very critical. And if you look here, guys, customer relationships, what we want to do is how do we establish and maintain with them, which goes back to acquire, keep, and grow. And we want to be able to integrate this with the rest of our business model. Now, there are some things here that you'll see listed, like personal assistance, where somebody has kind of a dedicated helper, self-service, where you're doing it yourself and it's more automated. And automated service is kind of like an Amazon, where Amazon is automated to a great degree, but it's also personalized. It knows what you're looking for and it adds that, but somebody's not here physically telling you to do that. So customer relationships, guys, key. We know this. Relationships build the strength of connectivity. They build up the ability for us to maintain customers. Now, revenue streams, guys, where's the money coming from? And obviously, this is a big deal. Unless you're doing a nonprofit, you got to have a revenue. Even if you're doing nonprofit, you've got to look at the grant cycle system and those kind of things. But we're looking at profit businesses. So what are our customers willing to pay for? How are they willing to pay for it? And how does that arrive to us? Asset sales, guys, would be like anything that you're physically selling, a usage fee that they put on top. The more you use it, the more you pay, or vice versa. The more you use it, the less you pay. Subscription fees, we all do this with Spotify, Pandora, Netflix, a multitude. You might lend, rent, or lease equipment. You might license out your idea for others to use. Advertising might be a stream, which is big time for Google and Facebook. In fact, I believe Facebook's revenue is probably 90%, if not higher, for this. How do we price things? Is it fixed? Is it just set? Is it dynamic? Is it able to move? So, the revenue streams are like this. The revenue streams are the arteries of the system, and they are super, super critical in developing what we need and growing as a business. If we're not making money, y'all, we ain't living. And 80% of startups fail their first year. So very big deal. Guys, here you can see the interrelationship that I had talked about earlier. You can see it drawn out for you, how this proposition one, this segment one, and this stream one are interconnected. So very, very important that you remember all of this stuff, all of it is connected. Now, as we move over, we're going to move now to the cost side of things, to the side that deals with the internal part of the business. And we're going to start with key activities. And it's what are we required to do in order to deliver our value proposition? If we can't deliver on it and we don't have the means to do so, then this model is not going to function. How are we distributing things? How are we building customer relationships? What are our revenue streams? It all comes in here. And here you have production, problem solving, and platforming and networking. Now, guys, these are activities that support the value proposition. And that's the big thing that I want you to think about here. What you're doing should be adding to your ability to give value to your customers. Now, we see these here, another connection between key activities and the propositions under the value propositions section. All right, those value propositions can be a lot of things, but they have to be something that's attractive to our customer segment. So very, very important, guys, that you're once again focusing on the interrelated nature of this. Now, when I go to key resources, it's what do we need in order to be able to deliver this? And there are 3 or 4 different types. There's physical, intellectual, human, which would be leadership, intelligence, quality of your staff, and then finally financial, which do we have the financial means? Do we have not only the revenue, but do we have the capital, the working capital within our business to deliver the key activities that are necessary? And so these resources are critical, very, very critical. And you can see that here. Where does the resource come to connect to the activity? So once again, all connected, all intertwined. Very, very important that we remember that. Now, key partners are, who are we strategically working with? How are we optimizing? What strategic relationships have we developed in order to push forward our value proposition? Guys, there's lots of reasons to form partnerships. The main ones are to increase efficiency, exposure, and because we need them to deliver upon our value proposition. We always don't have all the resources, the key resources. Sometimes we need the key partner to help us develop those, and that is critical. Now, you can see that here how the key activity and the key partners relate. Do you always have to have a lot of partnership? Not necessarily, but can it empower your business, make your economies of scale better, increase your productivity and your ability to deliver your value proposition? Absolutely, it can. Now, when we look at cost structure, guys, this tells you what all the costs of the business are. We have what are called fixed costs, which are things that don't really change over time. salaries, rents, utilities, overhead, variable costs, things that might occur that you just don't know when they're going to occur. And that could be machines breaking down, infrastructure breaking down, could be the need for something in a moment that you didn't anticipate. Economies of scale are how we ratchet up production to reduce costs. That started, guys, like in the 1900s, where you had the Industrial Revolution before, excuse me, even where you had these enormous factories where the cost of labor, the cost of production were reduced greatly. One, because of machinery, but also because of the setup in the infrastructure itself, and that dropped the price to consumers. So cost structure is important. If we don't understand the money that's going to cost us to run the business, and we don't understand the revenue that's going to counteract that, we have a difficult time knowing if we're truly going to be a profitable business. Now, guys, I'm going to do some business canvas model examples with you. And I'm just going to do one to start because you're actually going to be filling these out over the course of the next week. So the first one I want to look at is Facebook. So guys, when we look at Facebook, we're thinking about the customer segments. We're thinking about the value proposition that we're bringing in, the relationships, the channels, the revenue streams to start. And when we look at these things, guys, when Facebook first began, their customer segment was university students. You had to be in a university. So if we looked at Facebook as a startup versus the established company that they are today, it's slightly different. So let's take a look at the example of this canvas so we can walk through it. Customer segments. So guys, this is two-sided because you've got users that are actually using the product, and then you have advertisers and developers that want to reach these users. So it's a two-sided platform. You know, we have a segment of users, and guys, right here, what you're going to see is these are very broad, okay? Here under users, we should have probably sub-segments, and one would be, you know, people between 20 and 50 that have grown up with Facebook. You might have also a section which would be your pre-adolescent, 10 to 18. And when we're looking at these segments, we want to identify as many personas and qualities as we can. As I look through here, you see customer relationships, the channels. How do they get there? Through the internet, through their apps, you know, those kind of things. And if you look here, here's what we were talking about earlier. Their revenue streams are, you know, 99% of the revenue is ad revenue. Now, starting here, I'm going to move to here. What is it? What value does it give it to users? Global connectivity, sharing of ideas, global communication. What does it give to advertisers and marketers? Brand publishing, easy accessibility, business expansion for the marketplace. Okay, developers, virtual reality and payment structure. So these are connected according to whom we're speaking of. Relationships, it's a self-service platform. It's self-taught, it's easy. The channels we've already talked about. And as we move over here, we're going to look at our key activities because our key activities are needed to perform and to deliver our value propositions. Key resources and key partners, all interrelated right here. How do they relate to these key activities is what we're looking for. And how do these key activities relate to our value proposition? Down here, you can see their cost structure that tells you what the cost of the business are. So guys, this in a sense sums up the business model canvas, which is a one-page, one-stop shop to analyze an established business. If you still have questions, we'll be Zooming, and more importantly, use resources that I've given you and make sure that you understand these different parts as we move into Friday for our exam.